If I didn't tell you I was wearing a Joseph Paris hairpiece, you'd never know. It is so natural looking, so undetectable that not even the wind can give it away. Joseph!
Good thing then that he drives a convertible, because if you can't afford to pay for a Toupeé or a convertible, then there is always the vinyl top as a final solution. Go for the vinyl top and give your car a Toupeé and make it look like a convertible from a distance. Welcome everyone to episode 80 of the Automotive History series, where we cover up the rise and fall of the Toupeé of the automotive world, the vinyl top. According to most people and my intro, the vinyl top is usually seen as a typical fad from the 70s, but the concept of a vinyl top is actually much older. The first rise of what can be seen as an early version of vinyl tops was around 1930. From large and luxurious cars to basic Ford Model A's, these cars could be equipped with an optional cloth roof and S-bar to give the car a luxury appearance by making it look like a convertible without being a convertible. Some say that this short-lived styling trend was a reference to the carriage era right before the rise of the automobile, going so far to say that this was one of the earliest attempts at retro styling. The vinyl roofs of the cars of the 1920s were a reference to the coaches and carriages of the 1800s. This vinyl top fad lived much in obscurity as it quickly faded with the introduction of the all-metal, modern and streamlined aerodynamic cars of the second half of the 30s. These cars decidedly looked forward into the future than trying to look into the past. Fast forward to the 1950s and the idea of a fabric-covered roof resurfaced again, although it was a soft introduction. Particularly, the new startup company Chrysler tried all kinds of tricks to grab the attention away from the established American car industry, the Big Three. Their newest trick? A fixed roof with convertible cloth glued onto it while not being a convertible. And special editions with a certain theme, like the Dragon cars. Besides a custom interior made with highly unusual fabrics and textures for the time period, the interior was complemented by a matching fabric-covered roof on the exterior, like this tiki-style Dragon edition with bamboo-like fabric. Chrysler wasn't the only one, however. All throughout the 50s, various American car makers would offer vinyl roofs as a rare special option, or as part of an expensive luxury edition, mostly to test the waters and usually a one-year-only attempt and gone the next year. Ford introduced the concept on various models in the early 50s but quickly dropped it, only to be reintroduced on the ultra-luxurious special editions of Cadillacs in the late 1950s. Although the vinyl roofs didn't stick, you do have to remember that the 50s was full of two-tone colored cars, where the roof had a different color than the body just to mimic that convertible look, especially on the hardtop models, lacking a B-pillar giving the roof already a floating appearance. Interesting to note is that at the same time, however, the vinyl roof and S-bar were standard practice for some companies operating in the funeral car industry. Why you would want to have a hearse to look like a convertible, I still don't get it, considering an actual convertible hearse would expose the most important cargo to the elements, which is a stiff one in the back. Weird. So the vinyl top comes and goes and comes and goes, but guess what? It comes back, for real this time. It's been 10 years since the last attempt, so let's try it again. 1962 seems to be a magical year. Quite a few car makers started to offer vinyl tops again, mostly as an obscure option, like General Motors offering it on various Buicks and Oldsmobiles. But also Ford by offering a vinyl top on two cars, the Falcon Futura and the Thunderbird Landau. The Futura was the top-of-the-line trim package on the Falcon, which was an unapologetically basic economy car, and yet Ford felt the need to add a luxury package on a grocery getter. What did you get? Well, things like an upscale exterior with extra chrome trim, white ball tires, and lo and behold, a vinyl top. And so the Thunderbird, Ford's one and only quite successful personal luxury car, was given a vinyl top with the Landau package. And there's the term again, Landau, a reference to a coach and body style that are essentially convertibles, but not on this bad boy. To even further stress that this should be a convertible, which it isn't, it even came with a Landau bar or S-bar on the side, a reference to the folding mechanism, but here simply a decorative piece. I find it odd that this approach was dumped on a Thunderbird. If anything, the T-Bird looked rather space-age with its rocket-like body lines. But then you're going to force classical design elements on a futuristic car? It's like a rocket ship meets a horse-drawn carriage. Might just put a few horses in front of it and install wooden wheels while you're at it. Anyway, it proved to be a success. A year later, 25% of all T-Birds sold came with a vinyl top. Especially undertakers didn't know how fast they had to go down to the local Ford dealer to get a car that perfectly complements their hearses. From here on out, the vinyl top became big business as the entire American car industry jumped on it. In 1963, Chrysler arrived at the scene and did it in a canopy-style vinyl roof, as well as the experimental Turbine car, which was given a full vinyl roof. GM also introduced vinyl tops on more and more models as it no longer considered it to be a luxury car-only special option. And then there was Toupeé, offering a partial vinyl top on the Hawk series. edsautoreviews proudly presents Automotive Art Emporium, the official merch store. That's right, over at Eds Emporium, you can find the finest in automotive art made by yours truly. Whether it's a plate you want to hang on your wall in your home or garage, or magnets and stickers that you want to stick on the rear bumper of your classic ride, or expand your wardrobe with some car-themed apparel, I'm sure you're gonna love these designs. All designs are made by me and my own ideas, no AI trickery involved, for classic car owners that can handle a joke, and more designs get added along the way. By buying an artwork, you get to hang something nice on your wall, and I get to work on my retirement plans. So visit your local Eds Automotive Art Emporium by searching for edsautoreviews.dashery.com or click the link in the description and get your awesome automotive art today. By the mid-1960s, the vinyl floodgates were wide open. What was an obscure option a few years before became almost a standard practice, although it was usually part of the so-called deluxe or brougham trim package. By 1965, vinyl tops had spread over the roofs of all car divisions, models and trim lines, regardless of price point. And so, why wouldn't you offer vinyl tops on all your body styles? Chrysler offered a unique vinyl top design on the station wagons. Two separate vinyl strips on both edges of the roof were applied. Dodge introduced vinyl tops on the pickups, although it was never really clear if it was actual vinyl or a unique stipple paint texture that evokes the look of a vinyl top. Anyway, if you consider coupe utilities as pickups, then sure enough, you could get vinyl tops on these as well, like the Chevrolet El Camino. Even America's one and only sports car, the Corvette, came with a vinyl top, although it was only available on the removable roof convertible models, so technically a convertible with a vinyl top. One could argue whether the decline of the happy two-tone cars from the 1950s was replaced by the two-tone look because of the colored vinyl top. As mentioned, the vinyl top was mostly associated with upscale trim lines and option packages, giving your car a stately touch. Naturally, these tops came in rather reserved colors. The default was black, but optionally, you could get white or a very dark shade of blue, green, and brown. Not according to Chrysler, as the vinyl craze reached its ultimate top in the closing years of the 1960s with the introduction of the Mod Tops. Mod Tops, Floral Tops, and pop prints were a groovy, far-out addition to your car. Chrysler teamed up with a company specialized in picnic tablecloth and shower curtains, okay, if that works, to provide quality fabrics that would last. Why would you stick to basic boring black where you can introduce all kinds of crazy templates? Forget your formal Plymouth VIPs when you can get a plum crazy or sublime Barracuda with a matching pop print that wasn't only visible from the outside, but also on the inside. But hey, considering that the average living room at the time looked like this, you start to see where this is coming from. And yet, the Mod Tops were maybe a bit too far out, as other car makers were hesitant to jump into it. Mercury offered a one-year houndstooth edition on the Cougar, and GM debated for a few years to install them on Camaros, but ultimately decided to not go through with it. After a few years, Chrysler also quit the Mod Top business, as it turned out to be a slow seller. Only a couple thousand cars each year were optioned with these tops, but a new sub-series began, the textured vinyl tops. This time the color was toned down, but the texture was different. Think of all kinds of leathery surfaces, like the cowhide texture, crocodile skin texture, or a tortoise shell texture. And so we entered the 70s, and there was no stopping to the vinyl craze. It was no longer an America-only thing, it spread across the world. In Europe, various cars adopted the styling, mostly by brands that were owned by American companies, like the European division of Ford and Vauxhall and Opel, which were owned by GM. Since these cars usually had a few American lines in their design, a vinyl top was a natural addition. But also unexpected brands such as Volvo introduced Europeans to vinyl. In Australia, it was no different story. Ford LTDs and Holden Moneros were proud Toupeé owners. Even Japan jumped into the craze by offering vinyl tops on various cars. Toyota, Mazda, and Nissan were going wild. For some car models, 95% of the cars sold came with a vinyl top. And so this begs the question, if it's such a craze, what is the added value of a vinyl top? Nothing really. At least not for the customer. It's style over substance. Eventually, owners reported that after long periods of heavy rain, roofs started to leak or water was getting trapped underneath the fabric, forming rust holes in the metal roof. In fact, it only benefited the car maker. It was a profit machine. Vinyl tops allowed car makers to cover up badly joined body seams and save on layers of paint. So they saved on production costs while asking premium prices for these vinyl tops. Eventually, the whole business was even turned upside down. Instead of being optional, vinyl tops became standard on cars, and you had to manually select the option to get the darn thing off your roof. In the meantime, however, a new trend emerged: vinyl roofs in various shapes and sizes. Let me show you some. You have the full vinyl top, the entire roof is covered, pretty much the default design. Then you have the halo top. There is an ever so slim strip of metal or car body separating the vinyl from the window frame, giving the top a floating appearance, like a halo effect. Then there is the canopy style, where only part of the roof is covered, but not the C-pillar. Visually, it looks a bit like a canopy or awning hanging from a building or a shop. Then there is the landau style, which is the opposite of the canopy style. This time, the C-pillar is covered and the regular roof is metal, giving that landau coach effect. And then we get to the even crazier versions that can be defined by the styles I just mentioned. Like the up and over style, mostly applied on various cars from the Chrysler Corporation. This is somewhat of a canopy style, but a bit more groovy. The basket handle style, as found on the Ford Thunderbirds. Here it's pretty much a mix of a canopy and a landau, with a basket handle-like metal C-pillar in the middle, dividing them in two sections. British car maker Austin decided to install a vinyl top on their Princess hatchback model, but only decided in some versions to apply vinyl to the C-pillars. And then there is this. Let's call it the AMC edition. In 1970, the way the roof was designed, the vinyl followed the roof and was stretched all the way over the flowing C-pillar. The cloth effectively touched the trunk. A year later, the Javelin had a canopy-style vinyl roof, which was split in half to complement the racy stripes on the hood, giving the car a very cool and unique contrasting appearance. Around 1980, the average American parking lot was filled with fabricated roofs. Take a look. About half of this parking lot has cars with a vinyl top. This rage has been raging on for almost 15 years now. Was it ever gonna stop? Well, yeah. Around the mid-80s, car design shifted away from classical and Baroque styling and looked forward towards the future with ever more rounded and aerodynamic shapes. Almost in the exact same way as it happened in the 1930s. Around the early to mid-80s, Europe and Japan had moved on and introduced various futuristic aero cars, where a vinyl top just simply didn't belong. The last bastion of the vinyl roof was, of course, the United States. Although it's interesting to note that the exact same car that made the vinyl top popular in the first place was also the exact same model that put an end to it, the Ford Thunderbird. With the introduction of the 1983 Aerobird, Ford stepped away from the sedate styling that included a vinyl top and embraced the aerodynamic future. More American car companies followed, introducing aerodynamic styling on their models and dropping the brougham styling. Throughout the 80s, less and less models were offered with a vinyl top from the factory, except for a few holdouts. Especially the flagship cars of American luxury brands such as Lincoln and Cadillac faithfully stuck to the 1970s in order to please their retired, should I say retarded, customers. These cars offered vinyl roofs well into the mid-1990s, like this 1994 Chrysler Baron, that comes with the usual set of brougham trickery, like a chrome grille, white wall tires, chrome trim all around the car, and a vinyl top that covers even the rear doors. You can see how the rear door cuts into the fabric. Fantastic! But by the late 1990s, the last American car makers dropped the vinyl roofs as a factory option. So by the new millennium, you could no longer buy a brand new car that came with a vinyl top from the factory, putting an end to an industry trend that lasted well over 30 years. And so is the vinyl top gone? Absolutely not. Just because you couldn't get one from the factory anymore doesn't mean they weren't offered at all. Vinyl tops, especially in the US, remain a dealer and aftermarket option. So in the last 20 years, so from the new millennium until now, you'd still be able to dress up your Cadillac or Lincoln like a pimpmobile. And the thing is, it just doesn't work. It looks tacky as hell, especially when Cadillac introduced their art and science cars that adopted European styling proportions. A vinyl top just looks out of place. But that wouldn't stop certain individuals from applying it to their roofs, along with chrome trim windows and white wall tires. I really don't understand the appeal, but at the same time, I do, as I've been secretly fantasizing of putting a vinyl top on a modern-day Dodge Challenger, and I think that, it doesn't look too bad. Oh well. Maybe it's best if we let the past be the past, just like toupees. If you wish to know more about the brougham styling and brougham package, click the video in the top left. If you wish to know more about that other styling trick, white wall tires, click the video in the bottom left.